Hello guys, Charles here and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be looking at the humble pentatonic scale. Probably one of the first scales you've ever learned as a guitarist was the pentatonic scale. Now because we learn it so early, it can be very easy to dismiss its use, but it's a really excellent versatile scale that's been used by guys including McCoy, Tyner and John Coltrane, so it's certainly not below our pay grade. So we're going to begin by looking at what the pentatonic scale is, then we're going to learn how to rethink what the pentatonic scale is, and then we're going to see how powerful it can be by just simply changing our mindset, and we'll see how we can apply this scale over many different chord types. So the pentatonic scale is one structure that we can think of in two different tonalities, either a major tonality or a minor tonality. Let's start with the minor tonality as guitarists, that's probably the way we think about it the most, and let's do it in A minor because, again, we're guitar players. So we're going to start here on the 5th fret and I'm going to play through what I would call the first position of the pentatonic, although I know there's a bit of disagreement about which is the first position, but this is, for me, the first position. And the first octave of that is simply this. So that's A minor pentatonic. Now the relative major of A minor is C major. So those same notes can be thought of as a C major pentatonic. And if I move into, again, what I would call position 2, this makes it more visually clear that we're in C major because we're now starting on the 8th fret, which is the note C. And that pentatonic would look and sound like this. So if we take a moment to think about what we're actually playing here, we've got, if we just compare the first octave of each, we've got A, C, D, E, G, and A. That makes up our minor pentatonics, it's just A, C, D, E, G. Now if we look at the major pentatonic, we've got C, D, E, G, A. And then we're back to C again. So it's exactly the same notes, A, C, D, E, and G. Now, using letter names isn't particularly transposable, so let's now number those notes. So the A minor pentatonic, relative to A being 1, being the root, we've got the root, the minor 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the minor 7, back to the root. Now if we do the same but reframing it into C major, we've got C, the root, D, the 2nd, E, the 3rd, G, the 5th, A, the 6th, and back to C. Now most of you probably already knew something along those lines with these scales. So how are we going to rethink these? Well, let's just take a second to think about what those notes really are. So in the key of A minor, we've got the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. Well, that's a minor triad in there. So within the pentatonic, we've got a minor chord. In the major pentatonic, we've got the root, the 3rd, and the 5th. So we've got the major triad in there. Again, nothing mind-blowing. So these remaining two notes are the 4th and the 7th. So we've got a triad with two additional notes, a 4th and a 7th, or you can call it the 11th and the 7th if you want. In the major pentatonic, we've got the major triad with two additional notes, the 2nd or the 9th and the 6th. Now, if we think of pentatonics this way, we can create pentatonics on any chord type. So what are these chord types we've got here? Well, this first one would be on the A minor pentatonic. This would be used on an A minor 7. We've basically got an A minor 7 chord, A, C, E, and G, which we can play as an arpeggio, with a passing note on the 4. Now we know that the relative major of a minor 7 gives us the 6th chord, so we've got a C6 chord here, C, E, G, A, with an added 9th or 2nd, so we can call this a 6-9 chord. So the way to rethink your pentatonics is not to think of them as scales. We always call them pentatonic scales, but they're actually arpeggios. Now, if we take that mindset, we can play any chord type with a pentatonic scale, and it really gives us a very hip, modern sound. Again, think Coltrane, McCoy, Tyner. How to do this on other chord types? Well, let's just start simple. So let's say we want a minor 6 chord. Now, a minor 6 chord is an enharmonic equivalent of a minor 7 flat 5 chord as well. So we'll use A minor 6, but this would also work on F sharp minor 7 flat 5. Don't worry if that's not clear, we'll come back to that in a moment. So a minor 6 chord, well, what are the notes of the chord itself? A, C, E, and F sharp. So let's just start by playing that. So that's just a minor 6 arpeggio, nothing special. So now we're only one note away from it being a pentatonic, because that's a 4-note scale or arpeggio. So we've got options. Well, which note do we want to add? We could add the 2nd, which is what we do in a major pentatonic. We could add the 4th, which is what we commonly do in a minor pentatonic, or we could add the 7 on the top as well. So let's start by just keeping the 4 in there, which is what we would do anyway. So we'd have root, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, back to the root. Pretty cool sound there. So that's just 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's try 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. Slightly different sound there. Let's try 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Again, another pretty cool sound. So these are all variations on the pentatonic scale that we can play to give us a pentatonic sound on a different chord type. So again, for that one, although we're playing A minor 6, that's an enharmonic equivalent of F sharp minor 7 flat 5, exactly the same notes. So those pentatonics can also work on a minor 7 flat 5 chord. So what about a major 7 chord? So we've been using a major 6 pentatonic essentially. So the most obvious difference between the major 6 and the major 7 is the 6 and the 7. So instead of playing a 6 in our pentatonic scale, we're simply going to move it up a tone to the 7, and that gives us this. Really cool sound. So that's a major 9 it gives us, because we've still got the 2 in there. Let's try major 7 again, but let's keep the 6 in there and get rid of the 2. So we're going to have 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. Again, pretty cool sound. So let's take the same approach again and consider a minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio. Now we've already done an inversion of this, but let's treat it as its own root. So A minor 7 flat 5. Well, our pentatonic is 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. So we're just going to go 1, 3, 4, flat 5, 7. So if we want to spice that one up a bit, let's try instead of the 4, let's put the 2 in there. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, flat 5, 7. So what about a slightly more varied chord, like a diminished chord? So let's look at the diminished chord. We've got 1, flat 3, flat 5, double flattened 7, which is the enharmonic equivalent of the 6. So we've got to have a flat 3, a flat 5, and a 6 in there. So on an A diminished chord, that would look like this. The root A, the flat 3rd C, the flat 5th E flat, and the double flattened 7, which is G flat in this instance. So we've got A, C, E flat, G flat. So that's 1, 3, 5, 7 in terms of our numbering system. So we only need to add one note to that, so let's try adding the 4. Pretty cool. Let's try it, instead of adding the 4, let's try adding the 2nd. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 5, 7. For a final example, let's look at a dominant 7 chord. So a dominant 7 chord is a major type, so we'll be in the major position here, so C7, and the big difference between the pentatonic and the chord type itself is there's no 6. So we'll raise that 6 up to a flattened 7. That gives us 1, 2, 3, 5, flat 7. So instead of the 2, we might try using the 6 instead, which gives us that 13 sound. So maybe we'll try 1, 3, 5, 6, flat 7. So we've looked at most of the important chord types there. We've looked at a major 6 chord, which is an enharmonic equivalent of the minor 7 chord on the relative minor. We've looked at the minor 6 chord, which is an enharmonic equivalent of a minor 7 flat 5 chord, which we also looked at separately. We've covered a diminished chord, a major 7 chord, and a dominant 7 chord as well. So we've looked at most of the bases there. And every one of those pentatonic scales was slightly different. So by thinking of a pentatonic scale, not as a scale, but as a 4-note arpeggio with a choice of which passing note you want to add to it, which extension you want to put into that chord, or an alteration, of course, you can do this with altered chords as well, then you open up this world of possibilities for your pentatonic scales, and we're not just locked into this little box. One of the big problems I remember when I was playing early on, and I was doing mainly rock playing, is I was a brilliant pentatonic player, I had all my licks learned. The issue was when we got a non-diatonic chord, when there was a chord that didn't fit the pentatonic scale that most of the rest of the song was using. So by taking this approach and simply rethinking about what that chord is, what the degrees of the scale are, I can still sound pentatonic and it still fits my rock playing, I can still bend within that scale, but it's going to fit that new chord type and it's going to sound like I'm playing the changes a little bit more, but without moving too far away from that pentatonic language. Having said that, please don't fall into the trap which I did for a while, which is thinking, oh, I'm beyond the pentatonic scale now, I'm a jazz player now, I need 7 or 8 notes. The pentatonic scale is a fantastic scale, which, as I say, Coltrane and McCoy Tyner, they've just absolutely taken it to the next level. I mean, if you can get what they got out of the pentatonic scale, then you know, well done. You shouldn't really be watching this video. They are absolute pentatonic beasts that can create incredibly modern language. It's not a rock thing, it's not a blues thing, it's not stuck in the past. These are modern, forward-looking sounds. So I hope you found that one useful, guys. Drop me a comment down below with some of your own thoughts on pentatonics and how we can modify them to make them sound more modern and fit different chord types. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I always get some very interesting comments from you guys, which I very much appreciate. If you did enjoy this video and found this useful, please do click the like button, subscribe and ding that notification bell, otherwise you won't know when I upload my next video. I try and put up a couple of videos each week. I try my best to stick to that schedule. So there's plenty of content coming out, make sure that you get notified, and do share with any of your friends who might find this useful as well. Anyone who can already play a pentatonic scale and roughly knows what notes live in a chord will be able to use this method and break out of those pentatonic boxes. And as always, I hope you're all doing very well, getting plenty of practice in, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers!
Roll up, let me embed a story you'll never forget. A drip, drip, you're drowning in debt now. You can't buy your way out, and I heard you find it difficult to cope well. Here by this bottle full of hope.